Hello, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. So England have announced their World Cup training squad. Sort of. It's not a full squad just yet, but it does give us an opportunity to have a first look at maybe what Steve Borthwick is thinking when it comes to his squad to take to France for the World Cup in September. So that's what I'm getting into in this video. Make sure you drop a comment down below. Give me your thoughts on the squad, the players that are missing, the players that you expect to come in. Anything that springs to mind, put it in the comments section down below. I'm going to be going through some of my thoughts in the video. Like the video and subscribe to the channel as well, but let's get into it. So I feel like this is a little bit like a soft launch for England and their World Cup preparations. 28-player training squad, but it's worth remembering they'll take a 33-player squad to the World Cup in France. So there's still players to come in, and part of the reason for that is this squad doesn't include any players from Saracens, Sale, Leicester and Northampton. All the sides that made the top four in the Premiership and played semi-final and then final rugby. The players are basically given a little bit more rest, so they're not involved in this squad at the moment, but they will come in. So it's worth bearing that in mind. And it's the reason that certain positions look pretty light at this moment in time. So I'll put a graphic up on screen just to give you an idea. It's a little bit bunched up, but I'll leave it up there just so you can digest it for just a moment or two. Gives you an idea of kind of the positions which you're going to expect a lot of players to come in. Second rows is probably the really interesting one with Charlie Ewels, the only player named at the moment. And then the loose head side, we've got more options rather than the tight head. There's going to be change in this squad. We know that. We know already a lot of the players that will come in. But this, I suppose, just gives us our first real indication of where England might be heading. And there are some interesting selections and also some interesting players that have missed out. Also worth mentioning as well, just for the final bit of housekeeping before I get into my view on it, a few injured players, Luke Cowan-Dickie, Billy Vunipola and Ollie Chesham are all a part of the squad. They're part of the training camp, but they're all just going through their rehab basically at this moment in time. So they're continuing to be monitored by the staff and by the England coaching staff. Also, I saw in the Times today and newspapers today, Sam Simmonds, like Jack Noel, informed Steve Borthwick that he didn't want to be part of the squad. He's obviously going to France next year in terms of playing his club rugby, and the suggestion from what I can understand is that he didn't feel he would make the World Cup squad anyway, so rather than being in training camp for the next couple of months, it gives him a chance to bed in with his new club heading forward into next season. It's similar to what Dave Strettle did back in 2015, so we have seen it done before. And Sam Simmonds, don't think he played a game in the Six Nations, did he? I'm pretty sure I'm right in saying that. So he hasn't featured for Steve Borthwick so far, and he's maybe just taken the view that he's not going to be part of that squad. He wouldn't be selected, so he doesn't want to be in a 50-player training camp for a couple of months when he could be getting bedded in France. So that's the reason that Sam Simmonds' name isn't there. Where else can we go with this in terms of selection? I think the second row is really interesting. Charlie Ewels is the only name there. I mean, we can expect Itoje to come in, obviously. Chesham, as I say, is rehabbing, so presumably that all goes fairly well. I'd imagine he will be involved because he impressed during the Six Nations. And then Joe Launchbury as well, another guy that, from what I've seen, is probably expected to come in. So there are options to come in there for England, but I do still think that it has gone from being a position of strength to one of uncertainty over the last few years. I've mentioned it on the channel a number of times before, when you used to have Itoje, George Cruz, when Courtney Lawes played there. I know Courtney Lawes hasn't played in the second row for about 4 years, but he would be an option again. He's another one of those guys, one of the Northampton players that almost certainly will link up with this squad, so he's potentially another option in there. But the fact that you've only got one second row from the rest of the clubs, 7 clubs I guess it is in the Gallagher Premiership, one second row to call up in an initial 28-player squad, maybe is just a sign of where the second row options are for England at this moment in time, but there will be players to come back in there. Let's go through some of the good in those names that I put up on screen, because there's a few obvious ones really. Number one is Val Rapava-Ruskin. Delighted to see he get that opportunity. Played for Georgia at under 19 level, hasn't been capped at a senior level internationally, has done brilliant things for Gloucester in terms of scrummaging option. I think he's really, really good. So I'm glad to see him there. In fact, on a wider point on the loose heads, it's just so much stronger than the tight head side, isn't it? I think, in my opinion. Ellis Genge, you've got Joe Marler there, Beno Abano, I'll get onto him actually in a second, Val Rapava, Ruskin, plus there's other players that will come in from the other squads as well that haven't been named yet. Tight head for me is the area that, I don't know, I just don't think England have much strength and depth there, because even Kyle Sinclair, who's the number one option, and you would imagine if England are in a World Cup quarter-final tomorrow, Kyle Sinclair starts, I still don't think his form has been that great for Bristol, in all honesty. So that's definitely an area to keep an eye on. I mentioned him there. Let's speak about Beno Abano. He has had a torrid time with injuries over the year for Bath. It's been an incredibly tough road for him. He's been in and out, spent a lot of time on the sidelines, was starting to edge into the England team under Eddie Jones at one point before the injuries sort of wiped him out for a year, maybe a bit more than a year. So I'm really glad to see him back in there. Whether he'll be in the final squad that goes to France, I'm not too sure, but I'm glad that he's getting his opportunity. Also, Tom Pearson, I think is probably one of the favourite selections in this squad. He's one of the names on the lips of England fans that they wanted to see be given an opportunity, because he was just crucial for London Irish this year. If you look at it statistically, I think he's one of those players that leads so many categories for London Irish. His influence on that team, his performance has been excellent. And the fact that he's in there is really positive. I hope we see him go to the World Cup. I think the back row actually for England is an area where competition is going to be pretty fierce, but I'm glad that Tom Pearson is in there. Zach Mercer as well, another one. I'm not sure on Zach Mercer in terms of at international level. I think there are questions to be answered there, but I want to see him probably be given that opportunity, see how he does in training camp, see how he does in the warm-up games, because there's no doubt he offers something different at the number 8 position. I'm trying to remember now, when I did my video the other day of at this moment in time the number 8s that I would take, I'm not sure if I had Zach Mercer in there. So he's probably one of those for me that he's a really exciting player. As I say, he brings something different in terms of his quick feet and his ability to beat defenders that way as a number 8, which is not an option England necessarily have. So I'm glad to see him get the chance. I'm really intrigued to see how he goes in the warm-up. Let's see if he's able to take it. A couple more names as well, just to throw at you, that kind of jumped out to me, and names that I'm pleased to see there. One is Harry Randall. I didn't think he would be there, and I'm still not sure that he will make it to France. I would imagine we're going to see Alex Mitchell will go. I think Rafi Quirk will go, and then does Jack Van Poortvliet go? Does Ben Spencer go, who actually is part of this squad? I'm really pleased to see him in there. But I'm glad Harry Randall is in the training squad. He adds such injection of pace and zip into an attack when you can get front football. And then Caden Murley is the other one who continues to not be capped by England, but in terms of wingers in the Premiership, he is one of the form wingers, if not the form winger, over the last couple of seasons. There's just a couple of picks I wanted to point out as well that I'm unsure about. Number one is Danny Care. I know Danny Care's brilliant for Harlequins. He's vastly experienced. He will be able to guide a lot of younger players through the pressures of international rugby. But I'm just not sure when we've seen him recently for England whether he's quite excelled. I have concerns more generally about the style of play England implement, and the fact that it hasn't really got the best out of the Harlequins contingent, Don Brandt, Marcus Smith, Danny Care, when we've seen them recently. So I have some concerns there about Danny Care's selection. And Charlie Ewels as well in terms of the second row. I know he's been troubled with injury over the last year. He went on loan from Bath to South Africa to play, so I haven't seen a huge amount of him. But when I have seen him in an England jersey, I've never been convinced that he is the guy to come in and be a regular partner to Itoje or be a regular presence in that second row. So let's see how he goes. I guess one of the big, just final point to end it on, one of the big omissions, absentees is Adam Radwan from this. I think that will be unpopular amongst England fans. I always get comment whenever I do a England selection, England back three discussion on the channel. The fact that Adam Radwan's name always comes up, people pointing out that we focus too much on what he can't do rather than what he can do, which is be absolutely lightning, and he is an X-Factor player. I personally actually fall more on the side of probably the coaches, the England coaches at this moment in time, in that I'm not sure his all-round game is ready for international rugby. Maybe I'm being negative, maybe I'm being typically English and only looking at the downside rather than looking at the plus side. But for me, it's not a huge shock he's not there, but I can understand the frustrations of that he hasn't been given an opportunity. So those are my opening thoughts. This is the first of many discussions about England and team selection and all that sort of stuff over the next couple of months. Borthwick will name his full World Cup training squad, I believe, at the start of next month. So that's when we will have a better idea once those Saracens, Sale, Leicester, Northampton players are involved. So look forward to it. Let me know what you think in the comments down below and any of the points that I've touched upon. I look forward to reading them. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and I will see you in the next one.